Welcome back to Harmonize Your Life Conversations on Self-Care for Women of Color podcast with your host, Dr. Toni G. Alvarado. I'm so excited. We are at the final episode for the year 2022, and our guest today is going to be a wonderful dialogue partner to help us round out our conversations that we've had all year long concerning self-care, health, wellness, holistic living, healthy living. Um, and I know that you're going to be blessed by our conversation on today. This is the last episode of 2022, the last Monday in November. And we have had intriguing conversations all month long, all year long. And I am excited about our guests on today. And so I want you to get ready, um, get your pen, get your paper out, relax, enjoy the conversation today. And we'll be right back right after this. Well, I have in the podcast studio with me today someone who's very near and dear to me. She is a sister, she is a friend, she is a soror, and she is my chiropractor. And that is none other than Dr. Shawna Woodruff Broomfield. And I want you to know, I want to read some things about Dr. Shauna's, the work that she does with Conyers Holistic Chiropractic. Her practice here in Conyers, Georgia, is an integrative wellness center for women and children. She specializes in gentle and specific holistic services, which are designed to help keep families healthy naturally. Each of her patients' care is individualized, and all of her recommendations are made according to their personal needs. And I can attest to that. Um, Conyers Holistic offers services that are focused on integrative women's wellness, holistic chiropractic care, and nutrition response testing. Her goal is to help women and their families live their lives more proactively while offering natural solutions to the most common health care concerns. I also want to read a couple of testimonies from your site, Shauna. Um, here's a testimonial. Dr. Shauna is a very talented, knowledgeable, caring doctor. She cared for me while I was pregnant. She was very gentle while adjusting and thorough in telling you why she's doing what she's doing. I'm a witness. Her office and staff are very friendly and inviting. She also now cares for our baby girl, and she's very gentle, loving with her. There are some doctors that are just in it for the paycheck, and then you have doctors that generally care about others' health and well-being. Dr. Shauna is definitely the latter of the two. Grateful to be in her care, Lisa H. Here's another one from Aaron W. As always, Conyers Holistic is absolutely amazing. Shauna goes above and beyond for her patients. Every visit is so pleasant and personable. I definitely recommend Conyers Holistic to anyone looking for great chiropractic care. Shauna's one of a kind. And I'm going to read one last one. Dr. Shauna is the absolute best. I come to her for prenatal adjustments, and she truly has healing hands. She helped alleviate one of my aches and pains within one visit in a super informative uh, visit with her 10 stars all the way. All right. And I can personally tell you, I have rated her after going to her office. I remember, and I think I've shared this a few times with others that before I went to Dr. Shawna, I could barely lift my left arm above my head. And this is always the side that tend to give me trouble. And she works on me. She lays me down and adjusts me and tells me where I'm out of alignment. And I appreciate every time I go to her because of her knowledge, because of her care. She truly cares about her patients. And she not only cared for me, but she's also cared for my daughter, Ariel, after a car accident. She had some back trouble after a car accident and did several sessions with Dr. Shawna, and she got her straight as well. So welcome to the podcast studio, Dr.
Yeah.
Shawna.
I am so excited to be here today.
I'm
Thank
excited
you.
too. It look like the devil did not want us to have this
Right.
conversation.
I know, but we made it. Thank
We
God we
made it
made it.
happen. Life happens, right?
It surely does.
Especially when we have little babies.
Oh my goodness. You have no idea. Well, yes, you do. You
Oh, I
actually do.
know. I'm not, well, it's been a long time, but I
It's,
still remember.
I'm sure.
I still remember. Well, Dr. Shawna, thank you for taking the time today to be with me as we close out the year.
Yes.
It's been a
Yes.
full year of podcast conversations here on my podcast, and I'm just grateful to have women and people like you in my life that I can have these conversations with on a regular basis, and
Yeah.
certainly on the podcast.
Right. I'm grateful too. You have no idea. I learned just as much from you.
And you know what's interesting? And for those of you that do not know, Dr. Shawna wrote the foreword to my book, Harmonize Your Life, A Journey Towards Self-Care. And so you can get my book on my website. And she wrote the foreword to that book. And it is still blessing people today.
Right.
Um, and Dr. Shawna, we have these conversations all the time. When I come in and have my sessions with you, we talk offline, even sometimes in between my sessions. And so I just want us to have a regular conversation like we
Okay.
always do. And
Okay.
we'll let everybody else listen in. So talk to us and share for those of my guests, of my listeners that are listening to us for the first listening and hearing you for the first time, or maybe even
Okay.
this podcast for the first time. Share some of your story and what motivated you to go into this chiropractic work, this holistic work with families, and particularly for women.
Okay. So I'm born and raised in Georgia,
Mhm.
Madison, Georgia, to be specific, which is about an hour southeast of Atlanta. And I was raised by a single mother. And through growing up and watching her just work so hard and
Mhm.
give to her family and to everyone around her, I developed those same qualities. Would definitely say I'm a giver. And I
Mhm.
believe that that's why people have the experiences that they do in my office, because one, education is a huge foundational component to my practice, but I
Mhm.
sincerely give from my heart. And that's something that I learned through watching my mom, through growing up. Um, One of the things, though, that I also had to learn from that was that we have to give from a place of abundance, a
Mm.
place of abundance. And
Mm.
unfortunately, through learning from my mom, I also learned some habits that weren't necessarily healthy for
Yeah.
me. Giving from a place that isn't abundant, where for lack of better terms, your well is running dry, but
Mhm.
you're still trying to give to others
Exactly.
from that space.
Mhm.
And so through watching my mom and learning that, and me also making some mistakes of my own, I realized that that was a huge deficit, especially for women of
Yeah.
color.
Yeah.
We have just been, I guess, taught to work hard. I mean, I think that's
Yeah.
just a natural thing that innately we're taught.
Mhm.
But that can also come with some pretty severe circumstances
Yeah. We
if you
pay the price for that.
yeah, we paid the price for that. And through learning and having my own experiences, I realized that I wanted to create a solution for that for
Okay.
us.
Yeah.
So I think that's really where a lot of this has kind of been born from. Just watching my own mother, watching other women in my family, not necessarily give from a place of abundance and being burnt out.
Yeah.
And so that's how Conyers Holistic was actually born. So very happy to be, in a different space now and being able to give back.
Yeah, I think that that is so key because first of all, there are a couple of things you said that I want to circle back to. One, when you talked about your mother, I'm often referring to my mother,
Hmm.
and I have this book that's in me. I haven't written it yet, but I'm thinking through a compilation type of book where women can share their stories because I heard it has been said our stories begin with our mother's story. And
Yes.
so oftentimes um, when we find ourselves doing what we do, if we can probably more than likely link it back to the relationship with our mother, whether it was good or bad.
Right.
That a lot of what shapes us is that primary relationship. And so I know how my mother impacted me, and the influence she had on my life. um she was a nurse, so it's even though I didn't finish nursing school, I ended up going to nursing school because I was following my mother's pattern. And what's so interesting is when I came into this whole self-care, health and wellness as a part of the ministry that God has given me, I felt like in some ways I had come full circle.
Yeah.
Even though I wasn't a nurse, a registered nurse like my mom, I've always been concerned about people's health and
Right.
people's wellness, and whether that was spiritual health or physical health, wellness, that whole wellness wheel. And
Right.
so that's one thing. So I can identify with you in that. So we learned good things from our mothers, but we also picked up some not so good things
Yeah.
from our mothers. And what the good thing is that we get an opportunity to turn that around
Yes.
and rewrite that script.
Right. I
Mhm. And
agree.
not pass that on maybe to our daughters
Right. I
or the
agree.
next generation.
Hmm.
Yeah, and so that was good. And then the other thing you said was giving from a place of abundance. And
Yes.
so I call it pouring from a full cup.
Yes.
You can't give from an empty cup. You,
Hmm.
you gotta refill that reservoir
You're right.
inward, inwardly, physically, mentally, emotionally, financially. If it's just like with our money in the bank, if you keep giving, 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 giving out and no make no deposits, you're gonna be bankrupt.
Right.
Or you're gonna have some bounce checks. You
We're
ain't
gonna
gonna
have
be
some
able to
problems.
fulfill some of them promises.
Right.
Right. And so how often do we run ourselves down to the wick,
Right.
burn ourselves down to the wick? So that's good. So for you, learning and making the mistakes that you made, then you thought, okay, I want to create solutions.
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely.
So what does when in your solutions or your definition of holistic living, what does that entail for you?
To me, and it's funny because I'm going back to the Harmonize Your Life book and thinking about, like you mentioned, having a self-care board of directors. I believe that, holistic health can't be, it's not just one thing. When we think about the word holistic, it's derived from the word wholeness,
Yeah.
whole,
Yeah.
right? And
Mhm.
so that wholeness comes from those list of things that you mentioned: spiritual wellness, financial wellness, emotional wellness, physical wellness. It's all of those things that truly make us whole. And so we can't pick and choose the things we want to focus on and then
Oh,
call ourselves whole, right? We
uh,
have to focus on all of those things. You
mm,
have to give a little bit to all of those areas in your life to truly be whole and well.
mhm.
There are a lot of people that experience physical ailments due to them not creating some form of self care in other areas of their lives that are outside of the physical parts of our health.
Oh, that's
And
good.
so, Yeah, like you said, harmonize your life. That's, I mean, I don't think I'll ever forget that. I don't think I will ever, ever, ever forget that, because some of those things we know, but knowing a lot of things
And
is,
doing it.
you have to do it.
Yeah.
You have to do it. And
Mhm.
so for me, holistic wellness is really all of those parts of our lives that we have to focus on to truly be whole.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, and something you said there, you said that was really good. You said so sometimes we have physical ailments that are coming from, or that stem from other places where we have not practiced self-care.
correct.
Wow. Can you give some examples?
Yeah. So if you think about, and I'm using this as an example because it's something that we're going through right now. We know as the seasons change, specifically right now with it being fall,
Mhm.
everyone starts, getting concerned and worried about flu season and colds and things like that. But what we don't realize is that I can take all the vitamins in the world, all of the immune boosting things. I can take my elderberry, I can drink herbs every day. But if you're in a stressful situation in your life,
Mm, mm.
and you're not creating some form of self-care around really rejuvenating yourself and resetting yourself, none of those vitamins are going to fix that issue. Your immune system is still going to have issues adapting when it comes into contact with the flu or a cold. How many of us have probably been in a stressful situation and then we become sick
Yeah.
because of
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
Connecting that in your mind and realizing, like, wow, like I must really be stressed no matter
And
how
then
much
and
vitamin.
and then sometimes things happen and we wonder, "Oh my goodness, where did this come from?" But if
Yes.
I'm not paying attention to my stress level, or if I'm not resting, then my immune system is compromised, and
Hmm.
it's leaving me open for other things.
Correct. Hmm.
That's
So,
good.
so that's a good example of that. You, like I said, you can do all of these outward things. You can do all of, like I said, the vitamins and things like that. But like you mentioned, health really starts inside of us.
Yeah.
It starts inside of us, and it is our responsibility.
It's our I have a chapter in my book called Go Inward. Go
Mhm.
inward. When things are happening outside externally, I usually go through a process of going inward,
Yes.
checking myself, and going inward may mean spending quiet time, journaling, reflecting, praying, my worship time, getting my environment like I need it to be, so that I can
Right.
hear clearly and see where is this really coming from, and making sure that my responses to external things that are happening in my life are healthy, so that
Right.
I'm not being a part of the problem, but a part of the solution.
Correct. And I call that, what you were mentioning, I call that doing self-care inventory.
Ah,
So taking inventory, of all of those boxes that we need to check to create that holistic wellness in our lives. So going inward and taking inventory. That's important. We have to do that on a regular
on
basis,
a
not just
regular
when
basis.
things are going bad.
Yeah,
It's actually more beneficial to do it when everything's going well. Say, hey, how do I keep this balance in my life?
yeah,
What am I doing right now for myself that's creating this wholeness and happiness? And yeah, that's a part of that inventory.
yeah. And I have an instrument that I use. It's actually created by the NAMI organization, the National Association of Mental Health, and they have an instrument that I use with my clients, for my self-care clients, and it goes through all those areas of our lives, and it asks you pointed questions like, do you um and it helps you to rate yourself like 1 to 5,
Okay.
right? And some of the questions are on the instrument are like, um how often do you vacation? um
Mhm.
and these are things that we don't think about. How often
At
do
all.
you how many days a week do you exercise? How often do you eat, drink water? How often do you eat healthy food? How often do you say yes when you should be saying no? How many projects are you overloading yourself with at work? It goes through all of these
Yeah.
psychological things, emotional things, physical, our nutrition, all these aspects of our lives. And some of those questions, when I give them to my clients, they tell me I never even thought about
Yeah.
asking myself these questions. We're doing these things, but we're not thinking about them.
Right.
And we certainly are not realizing the impact that it's having on us physically, emotionally, on our soul. It's not,
Right. Yeah.
we're not aware oftentimes of the impact that these natural life circumstances and situations are having on us.
That's true. Yeah.
So I think that inventory that you talk about, that
Hmm.
you mentioned, is so necessary. So it creates greater awareness.
Right. I was just about to say that awareness. That's the word that was coming to me as you were mentioning all of those things. We're so on autopilot doing everything that we do. It just becomes like second nature to whether they're good habits or bad habits. If it's something that you repeat over and over, it's just, it becomes normal for you. But stopping and really like creating that awareness will show you where you need to work a little bit more in some of those areas that
Right,
maybe
right,
you need to focus on more.
right, right. So now let's go a little deeper into the whole chiropractic
Okay.
work that you do, the chiropractic medicine. Now years ago, before I started coming to you, I had a car accident. I want to say maybe around 2003, somewhere around there, and I ended up seeing a chiropractor for a minute because of the injury to my back and neck. Um, and I did it for a minute, and then I didn't do it. I didn't. Then it was years before I saw a chiropractor again when I started coming to you in 2015. Um, and I can't believe I've been
Well,
coming to
I
you
was
that
just about to
long.
say that. I'm like 2015.
Yeah, because we were in Leadership Rockdale together,
Oh, that's right.
class of
Yeah.
2015, and I started coming to you right after we graduated
Wow. I didn't
that
even
year.
realize that.
Yeah. Um, and so, but before I started coming to you, and like I said, I had an experience with a chiropractor one time before, but before I can remember years ago, we weren't encouraged to see chiropractors. It
No.
was almost like that's not quote unquote traditional medicine.
Right.
And so because it's not, your traditional medicine, oftentimes insurance companies won't pay for it. You know, I pay out of my pocket for my chiropractic care, and it's important to me. That's why I do it. So I'm
Right.
investing in myself. But there's some insurance companies that won't pay for it because it's not considered traditional medicine. So what
Right.
made you go into chiropractic work?
Um, for me, well, it's funny because originally I did want to go into traditional medicine. For many years, I worked in any type of healthcare specialty you can think of. I've worked in an office that did that. I mean, everything from primary care to surgery of all sorts, OBGYN, like everything. I've worked in those offices. And the common thing that I noticed in a lot of those practices were that, a lot of doctors will, have a patient come in and they're complaining about, something that they're going through or an issue that they have. And the solution was either medicine or surgery. Those were the two options. And for me, growing up and even watching my family, because I come from a long history of diabetes, high blood pressure, some of the most common things that many of us, I'm pretty sure, can relate to.
Mhm.
Um, but there are solutions to those things. There are preventative things that we can be doing.
Preventative. That's the
Right.
key
There
word,
are preventative
preventative.
things that we
Mhm.
can be doing
Mhm.
to change the direction of our health, right? Um, and I did not learn that in any of those practices at all. And so, like I said, through my own experience, I also found out I think I was like 20 years old, I found out I had fibroids, which is a common thing, right? Many of us, especially as Black women, that's a very common thing that we hear about. but nobody ever talks to us about what we can do naturally to help ourselves in those situations. And so I really wanted to have a natural solution to some of these most common things that we're all approached with. And chiropractic is one of those things that I learned about. I didn't grow up going to the chiropractor. My family never talked about chiropractic. And the only understanding I had about chiropractic was like your experience.
Yeah.
Get in an accident,
Hmm.
or some of the commercials we hear, in a wreck, need a check. Like that's
One
that's
call, that's all.
right. One call, that's all. And so that was my understanding. But it's amazing how people always ask me how I chose chiropractic. And to be honest with you, I truly believe that chiropractic chose me.
Wow.
This was something
Oh,
that God
yeah.
placed upon my life because I knew
I
nothing
like
about it.
that. Chiropractic chose
It
me.
chose me.
That's
And
good.
I know that because before I even went to chiropractic school, I had never seen a chiropractor. And a lot of people don't know that. I had never seen a chiropractor ever, ever.
Are you kidding?
I'm not kidding. And I remember sitting in my living room before I even applied to chiropractic school. I was working in an office, an OBGYN office at the time, and I was looking for a way out. I was really looking for a way out, some way that I could help impact my community. I knew I wanted to be in healthcare. I knew I didn't want to be an OBGYN at this point through working. And honestly, chiropractic, I was in my email and a pop up popped up on my laptop. Literally, this is a true story. It popped up and it talked about chiropractic. So I clicked on it, heard about Life University, which is actually, there are two campuses, but I went to the one in Marietta, Georgia, and it talked about holistic health, natural solutions, and all the things that I absolutely loved, but
Mhm,
didn't
mhm.
even know were options. And I applied that same night, not knowing a thing else
That's wonderful.
about the career. So yeah, it chose me. It truly chose me.
And I think our calling does choose us.
Yeah,
I really, really, I think our calling chooses us. I agree with you on that. So that was no accident. That pop up was no accident,
not at
and
all.
I know it because you're such a great chiropractor. And I'm glad to hear you said that you said that oftentimes we go like I did go. I went to a chiropractor because I was in a car accident.
Right,
But now I come to you. I've not had any car accidents or any of that. It's a part of my regular self-care. I was just with you
right,
Monday, you know.
right.
And so it's a part. It's in my calendar every month to see you. It's a part of my budget to see you. It's important that we do it not just when we've had an injury. I guess that's what I'm trying to
Yeah,
say. Not
right,
just when we because I could have stopped after we got done working with my arm and all of that, my range of motion, but I kept coming. And as I came, the more I came, the more I've learned about the whole idea of spine health. I didn't even understand how important my spine health was until I started coming to you. Talk to us a little bit about the importance of spine health as it relates to our overall health and wellness.
right. Well, the first thing that I'll say, like you mentioned, which I would hope everyone knows this, but if they don't, you'll learn today. We only get one spine, right? The spine is one of the things in our body that you cannot get a transplant on. So if something happens to your spine, you can't go out and get a whole new one, right? But the more important part of that is that chiropractors, we focus on what's called your nervous system. And your nervous system is like the computer of your entire body. It tells your body everything that it's supposed to do. It helps your heartbeat, it helps your lungs bring in oxygen. It helps me talk, right now. It's the reason I can hear, it's the reason I can see, the reason why I can digest all that good Thanksgiving food we just ate. It literally helps your body function and work. And so, as a chiropractor, what I'm looking at are any areas within the spine that are imbalanced or misaligned that could be causing your body to not heal and function the way that God intended it to, which is perfectly. It is perfectly orchestrated, it is perfectly designed, but sometimes we aren't good to our bodies, right? We eat the wrong things, we don't, exercise, we're stressed out, we work jobs that are, oh, okay. We work
There you go.
jobs
We
that
good.
are we work jobs that are taxing on our brains. We don't rest well. And so through that, we get what are called misalignments in our spine. And in chiropractic, we call those subluxations. And those subluxations are what cause our immune system to not function well, our digestion to not work as quickly as we know as women. We say when we get older, oh, my metabolism isn't working the way that it used to. Which there may be some truth to that, but at the same time, it can be because of those stress factors and misalignments in your spine that your body is not communicating properly anymore. So chiropractic takes something that is disconnected and we reconnect it. Yeah, we
And
reconnect it.
I really feel that way when I'm laying on that table too. All those tricks you have, and recently I was in a conference, and the theme of the conference was being aligned with the heart of God, right?
Oh, wow.
Women's conference. And I got up. I was one of the worship leaders for that particular morning. I was the worship leader leading us in that service. And I got in that service, I started relating this whole idea of being aligned with the heart of God with my visits with you. And I talked about how um often when there have been times when I've laid when you I remember the first time I laid on the table and you asked me, you said, "Are you in pain?" And I said, "I don't know, I don't think." And you were like, because you're out of alignment here. You always pulling my left leg down, telling me, "You're up here. And do you feel that?" And you said something to me that I've never forgotten, and I've used it in my ministry to others. You said, you asked me, was I in pain? And I told you no. And you told me that I was in pain, but that I've learned how to accommodate it. And you talked about the idea that sometimes we're in pain and we accommodate pain to the point where we don't feel it anymore. And
Mhm.
that was revolutionary for me. I mean, I saw that in a holistic
Areas.
way,
Yes.
right? Not just
Yes.
with what was happening with my hip or my neck. But you I talked to them about the adjustments that you do and how you help bring my body back into alignment. And oftentimes I can't see it, which is why I have to come
Right.
lay on your table, right? And then you get an opportunity to just kind of look at me first before you start working.
Mhm.
And that's why this is so important, this whole holistic work. And like you said, going back to the book, Self-Care Board of Directors, in order for us to get back in alignment, we need other people
You're right.
and other gifts like
Yeah.
chiropractors and other nutritionists and doctors and you know physical
Therapists. Like,
therapists, mental health
yes.
therapists, and um,
Yes.
my trainer that left me a workout this morning that almost killed me, but I still got down there and did it by myself. You know, but yeah, so we need counselors and therapists and spiritual directors and pastors
Yes.
and teachers. All of that makes us well-rounded and holistic and whole.
Right.
And so, yeah, I appreciate you. So those adjustments that we do are necessary.
Absolutely. Absolutely. For everyone. For everyone. Like you mentioned earlier, I see babies, I mean, that are days old. But chiropractic is a great way for us to give them the best start at life.
Wow.
The
So what
best
do
start.
you do with the babies? Because
So
I'll be
babies,
I'll be thinking that the babies don't need adjustment. But tell me,
so
what do
if
you
we
do with
think
the babies?
about it, if you think about even a woman, because I remember when I think about this, I think about my first experience with being in labor. My first labor was 36 hours long with my daughter. And I was determined to do it naturally, determined. But what we don't realize in that is we're working hard, but the baby is working hard for all of those hours. They're having to
So
twist and
true.
turn and come down the birth
I
canal and
never
do
thought of
all of
that.
these different things. So it's not just our bodies doing that, it's also the baby. There's this innate thing that God has placed in the baby and in us that's helping that baby come down and then eventually, be birthed. But what we don't realize is that whole process is also very traumatic for a baby. You think about them coming from a place that's completely dark, it's enclosed, they've been in the fetal position, to now they're hearing all of these loud sounds, these
The
bright
noise, the
lights.
lights.
We're moving them around and doing all of these different things that they weren't experiencing before. And so sometimes with that, we need to calm down their nervous system because they're being overly stimulated now that
Okay.
they're here. And so
That makes
chiropractic,
a
of
lot of
course, we're
sense.
not taking the baby and popping their spine. We're not doing any of that. We do something that's called sustained contact, which is literally we're just putting enough pressure on their little spines to kind of press like a ripe tomato. That's the best way I can describe it, just to indent it just a little bit. And by holding those areas where you feel tension in the baby's
Amazing.
spine, it releases that stress from their body. So they eat better, they sleep better, they poop better, they do all of those things that now they're having to learn how to do with more ease.
Well, I tell you, I'm not having any more babies, but but as soon as my grandbaby shows up, I'm gonna ask my daughter-in-law and my son if they will allow me to pay for the baby.
Yes.
I'll pay for it. But because that, I mean, that's really amazing.
It really, and it's amazing to see the babies, they sleep through the whole thing.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm gonna give my daughter-in-law
They
and my
sleep through
son.
the
As
whole
soon as
thing.
I get a new baby, my grandbaby, my first grandbaby, I'm gonna get him a gift certificate to Conyers Holistic. They live right around the corner, and I'll tell him I'll pick the baby up and take him to. She can go with me. He can go with me.
Yes. Yes.
Wow, that is so. That's oh, this is so good, Dr. Shawna. You are such a wealth. You are a wealth of information, knowledge, care, just I just love, I really, really, really do. I really love you. And you have
Oh,
not,
I love you
you're not
too.
just a chiropractor, but I consider you a friend. And I really appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. I want to give those that are listening to us an opportunity to find you, know where to find you. So I want them to know, first of all, you are listening to the Harmonize Your Life Conversations on Self-Care for Women of Color podcast. This is Dr. Toni Alvarado, your host for this podcast. You can find this podcast on Anchor, on Google, on Apple, on Spotify. If you're not watching us on YouTube, you can go to my YouTube channel. If you're listening to the podcast on these other platforms, go over to my YouTube channel, just put a pin, run over to my YouTube channel, like, subscribe to my YouTube channel. It doesn't cost you anything to subscribe, and you'll be notified when these sessions are uploaded. Every Monday we upload a new episode of this podcast. This is the last episode for 2022. We'll be on break all of December, so you can go to my YouTube channel, or you can go to Spotify, Google, and listen to all those that you've not listened to this year. All of them are cataloged there on my YouTube channel, as well as these other platforms. So go there, like and subscribe, and you can this is a wealth of knowledge. Share these sessions, these conversations with others in your life. We perish for the lack of knowledge, and one of the purposes of this podcast is to bring knowledge and information to our community so that we can live well, that we can live holistic lives, and we can prosper and be the best version of ourselves that God designed us to
Yeah.
be. So go there and be a part of that. Also, I want you to go to my website at drtonialvarado.com and join the Women's Self-Care Network. The Harmonize Your Life Women's Self-Care Network is available for all of you that love to be a part of this community and what we are doing and how we are helping women and changing the narrative for women of color. concerning health and wellness and fitness and all the things that we talk about here on this podcast. So you can get up close and personal with me and the women in this community by joining the Harmonize Your Life Women's Self Care Network. Dr. Shawna Brumfield is our guest on today, and I want you to know that you can find her at Conyers Holistic. And we're talking about holistic chiropractic and self-care, but you can find her at Conyers Holistic on Facebook. You can go to her website at conyers.holistic.business. All right, you can go there. On Instagram, you can find her at Conyers Holistic. Go there, be a part of what she is doing. Go to her Facebook page, go to her Instagram, go to
Yeah.
her website, make an appointment, get an adjustment,
Do it all.
bring your baby, bring your
Yes.
grandbaby. I mean, come on, let's do this thing. Dr. Shawna, I'm telling you, she will be a blessing in your life. I know from personal experience because she is my personal chiropractor, and I give her 5 stars every time I leave, or 10 stars, whatever it
Aw.
is that they tell us to give on those Google, what they call them, the
Oh, the Google
surveys,
reviews?
on the
Yes.
reviews, on the Google reviews. So my review is up there. I read some of the reviews from her site. I want you to go there because I want you to be a part of what she is doing and take part in the chiropractic services that she provides. If you, Dr. Shawna, if someone doesn't live in Georgia, do you have any way of connecting with people outside of
Yes,
Georgia?
I do. I
Share with us
do.
how they can do
Yeah.
that.
So if you're looking for a chiropractor in your area, there are a couple of ways you can find one. If you are someone who is expecting a baby, we have an organization that's called the International Chiropractic Pediatric Association. You can go to icpa.org, and there is a list of chiropractors that specialize in
Say that
pregnancy.
again because I'm going to type that and put
Okay.
it on the screen for those that are watching. It's the
It's it,
international.
it, it's well, you can go. It's www.icpa.org. That's the International Chiropractic Pediatric Association. There's a list of prenatal and pediatric chiropractors there. Also, we have a list of find a Black chiropractor near me. So there is another colleague of mine that started a page, find a Black chiropractor near me. She's actually based here in Georgia, but if you Google that title, you'll find the website with tons of doctors listed. Of course, I'm on that page as well, but there are a lot of amazing doctors out there that would love to help you.
Wow. Find a
Find a Black chiropractor near me.
find a Black chiropractor near me. I'm typing that
Yes.
too, so we can put
Yes.
that on the screen for those that are watching us on YouTube.
And
Find
then
a Black
and
chiropractor near me.
and
Mhm.
then there's one more resource that is called it's called ABCA, ABCA, and that is the American Black Chiropractic Association. That is another great avenue to find doctors in your area. Yes. So
ABCA. All right.
yeah.
I got that banner up there as well. Good. Good. Give us, as we're closing out today, why don't you give us just one last word of wisdom and encouragement as
Okay.
we prepare to close our conversation?
So this is something that I tell almost every person that comes into my office. Just because something is common does not make it normal. And what I want to bring emphasis to in that is that just because our families experience certain things with their health does not mean that that has to be our story. I believe that part of our job here as people, as women of God, as leaders of our families, is to be proactive about our health and less reactive. So get yourself checked, see your primary care doctor, see a chiropractor. take care of yourself, take care of the fullness and the wholeness of who you are so that you can live a happy and long, fruitful, and healthy life.
Now that's a whole word. That is listen, y'all, that is a whole word. Just because something is
Common
common does
does
not
not mean that it's normal.
that it's normal. That right there will preach all day long. So be proactive. Take your self-care, your health, your wellness seriously. Take responsibility for your own
Right.
self-care and your own health and your own wellness. Dr. Shawna, thank you again
Oh,
for this
thank you so
conversation.
much.
This was the perfect conversation to end our year. I told them they were going to be blessed. I told them, and I told you this was going to
You
be a
did.
blessing. And I know that those that are listening will be blessed and share it with others so that we're not blessed because we're blessed to be a blessing. And thank
Amen.
you for being such a blessing in my life and in our community. All
Thank
right, you all, that rounds us out for the year 2022. We're going to be on break the rest of the month, all of December. We'll be back in January with new conversations, with more conversations, with maybe new guests or some repeat guests or whatever the Lord says. We'll be back in January with new programming, and we're going to dig a little deeper, drill down harder next year on this podcast as it relates to self-care, health, and wellness. Thank you for being a part of our podcast community and for supporting this podcast in whatever way that you have engaged with us. We appreciate you. All right. This is Dr. Toni Alvarado, your conversation host on Harmonize Your Life, Conversations on Self-Care for Women of Color podcast. We'll see you in the new year. See you soon. Hi, this is Dr. Toni Alvarado. I am so delighted about bringing the Harmonize Your Life podcast to you. Would you do me a favor? If you are enjoying this podcast, would you email me at hello@drtonyalvarado.com? I want to hear from you. I want your feedback. I want to know if there are any other topics that you are interested in as it relates to wellness, self-care, nutrition, or just overall bringing harmony into your life. Email me, contact me at hello@drtonyalvarado.com.